Welcome back to Champ Talk with Branden Hudson, guys, and I am super excited about today's guest, like I always am, but I find just incredible people that I love to bring on. But first, let's get this out of the way. Please, if you get value out of this episode or you know somebody who does or would, please send this episode to them and hit the like, subscribe button, any platform you're on, all platforms. And if you're ever so kind, you really feel good and generous today, why don't you leave me a review? The reviews and the subscriptions and the likes, all of that makes a big deal for us to get recognized more on the platforms. We don't take any money for this. This is all free. This is why we do Champ Talk, to produce value for our people. And again, if we can get, recognized and seen a little bit more, then that's going to help as many people that we can to, improve their life, be a champion. So whatever have you. But yes, hit that like and subscribe button. Please give us a review. Without further ado, again, I'm excited about this episode. I've been wanting really to focus on, we have been focusing on entrepreneurs and business owners, but it's really usually male dominant on my shows. It's probably because all I know is dudes. You know what I mean? My wife doesn't let me have friends, but she said I could have this one friend this one time and bring her on. And I make all these jokes like my wife listens. She'll never listen. But anyway, I would love to introduce Lacey Coleman. Lacey, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Branden. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Thank you for being here. So, guys, Lacey is the president of Coastal Comfort Heating and Air. It's a local heating and air company here in Salisbury that's been, you've been involved since 2008.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long has it been going on?
20 years in 2025. So this is the 21st year as of January.
Okay, great. And when did you take it over?
It's kind of a hard line to pinpoint, but so originally my dad started the business in 2005. I originally had a partner. I came in 2008 after the partnership dissolved, started learning everything. And then somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, more like 10 to 12 years ago, I took on more of like an ownership running role. And then I eventually bought the company from my dad.
And you said 12, you said 2012?
It's been 10 or 12 years.
10 or 12 years. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So, 10 or 12 years of running a heating and air business, you know what I mean? Which, I think it's no secret. Majority of the people think that's a male dominant, or it is a male dominant industry. What was that like, stepping into that ownership role, you know what I mean, as you were transitioning, because I actually met your parents over at the gym where I got started at. They were just working out and, we just said hi, and it was like a little mutual thing. And then, just kind of series of events, we met each other. But what was that like, man? Going from, I'm sure there was a lot of shit you had to hear, daddy's girl and all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
For you, what, how did you overcome that?
Absolutely. So definitely initially in the beginning, there was customers that would say, I even had this, I remember this elderly man called one time and said everything that was wrong with the world was that women were in, positions of power or, being in charge. And I fired him as a customer, of course, because, you don't want people part of your journey that are going to constantly be, and be an antagonist and pull you down. I even had, some women even, saying sexist things like, you're not just a pretty face, you actually know what you're talking about. And I think maybe she meant it as a compliment, but it was a little bit insulting to just insinuate that, I am where I am because you might find someone attractive. There is, I'm smarter than I look, I guess.
I would agree to that. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
So I would, initially, distributors, banks, it kind of, people don't tell you up front. Sometimes a lot of it's behind your back. And, but there's people talking, other companies, at the time, I think I had, being young and naive on my side. And I just really didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I, heard it, said whatever, but I just kind of put my head down and went through it. And I think being naive is sometimes it can be a negative thing, but I think in my case, it was a positive thing because failure wasn't an option. Mm-hmm. I had something to prove, if not to anyone else, but to myself. I had my daughter when I was 19. I didn't finish college. So, for me, I had the desire to not be a statistic and want to be able to support my family without, relying on anyone else, and eventually also supporting my parents as well. My parents, I love their story. They're super hardworking people. And I just had, that is bigger than me. And, if someone said something slightly offensive, a lot of times I would just, laugh it off and kind of move on. Since then, I've had other owners reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, when you used to show up to the home shows, we would say, oh yeah, there's, the daughter, she's just there because, her dad put her in that place. And that's definitely been, a misconception that I was given, the company, which is, certainly not the case. I've worked very, very, very hard, all the sleepless nights, as an entrepreneur, all the weight to the elephant on your chest at night of all the anxiety with the things that you think about.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
I think it's so like, it just blows my mind, right? Because so many people think that family run and family, businesses are these things where someone else did all the work and then it was just given to you. If anybody understands, and the people that say that don't understand that, the biggest fear of someone who starts their own business is giving it to their family or having their family buy it or get into it, right? That's your dream. I wanted, I'd love to pass my business along to my kids, right? But there's this innate fear in my head, like, man, what if they fuck it up? What if they do wrong? They don't know what I know. I got to protect them, right? So, and then the other side of it is like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Like, aren't you supposed to take something that your parents built or, started or whatever, and then make it better and then, keep that trajectory on. But people have such a narrow-mindedness about them where they're like, oh, well, it was this and what was that. And I truly think a lot of it is jealousy. A lot of it is just unknowing. And then I think the other side of it is they just, it's a fear-based thing. A lot of people project those fears on other people because they don't want to take the risk and take the chances of doing.
It's a misunderstanding, I think, and I think it's easier to say that. Well, I think it's a misunderstanding. It's easier to say that you were given something instead of saying, "Man, you really worked for that," because maybe it's a reflection of what someone does or doesn't have, within themselves. I think it's actually harder because the dynamic between my dad and I, it's always been good, but it was, complicated at times because he didn't go into business for himself until he was 45. He wanted to keep things very small. He, wanted to keep things, what in his opinion, manageable. Because he didn't want to fail. He didn't start until he was 45. And he's like, after having and owning a business, I would never want to have to go back and work for, another company or someone else. And that was a fear of his, which is valid. And then for me, I was younger. I was, I'm stubborn. I'm independent. I'm all of these things. And I'm like, no, like failure's not an option. I want to grow. I want to be the best. I want to be bigger. And the only thing my dad specifically ever gave me is opportunity. And what I did with that was completely up to me. And whether it was, to the moon or, kind of settling in and letting things, just manage what we already built. But at the time, we were maybe $1 million in gross revenue every year. And, I've 10x'd that on my own. Now they gave me work ethic. He helped, sometimes if I had different questions years ago, but he's been completely removed from it for a lot of years. So everything that I've done has been on, me, my work ethic and everything that I built. But I appreciate the opportunity they gave me because that's kind of where it ends of what handouts, if you want to say. But I think other people will look and they just can't believe that me, one, as a woman, can make it in the HVAC industry because it is a male dominated industry. There's times where I go to events and I might be the only female there, but I've never really been intimidated by that. I think to me, it's motivating, and it's definitely changed in the last 20 years. There's definitely more women in this space, as there should be, and I love it. And I mean, I've even had employees that hired would say, I can tell the difference between a woman ran or woman owned company versus, other one. Not to say there's anything wrong with the men, but sometimes having a woman run company it's a different perspective. So I've never been, discouraged by that. Although over the years, my employees didn't respect me because I've never been out in the field. But I've learned a lot by reading, listening, understanding, and asking questions.
Well, there's a lot of issues when you have, in a lot of industries, majority of them, the trades, you have the difference between, and I see it here, I see it in the gym, you have the difference between a technician and a business owner. And a lot of times the technicians, when they cross over to that business ownership, they're still thinking like a technician would.
Absolutely.
They have that, well, that's just too much to charge, or, and they don't get the bigger picture. Like, hey, it might be too much to charge for you, but for the company to profit in business and pay all the things that we have to, the profit margins aren't really that big. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think that you're spot on with that, where your naivety you said about, hey, I didn't really know, but that actually helped me because I came through with a business perspective. And I know when I was in the real estate game, I know that, it was a common theme with our female realtors versus our male realtors, you know what I mean? And, it's not that anyone's better or worse. It's just you saw majority of your female realtors, when you talk about the essence of how a business is ran, they do have that thing to prove, right? So, and let's just be real. I'm a father, I've been a father since 19 as well. My kids are my oldest daughters are grown. All my daughters are grown, excuse me. My son, he's 3. But as much as I love them and much as I take care of them, as much as they're part of me, I can never be their mom. You know what I mean? They did not come from my belly. There's a shared bond that moms have. So when you apply those mindsets into the business, it seems like that there's a little bit more of, hey, this is like a burn the boats type of situation. I got to go in. I can't sit here and just let this opportunity slip through my fingers. And if it's not going to work out, I'm going to give my best. So we saw that in the realtors that we hired that were females. And it seemed like they had a little bit more of the preparation side under control. You know what I mean? Like they had itineraries for their itineraries, or they cross their T's, they dot their I's. And again, this isn't all of them, but a lot of the guy realtors were like, yeah, I got this squirrel. You know what I mean? And they're gone, right? So I do understand and empathize or understand and connect with what you're saying, because having an outsider perspective has probably been done well. And then, so I'm hearing this correctly. So, you're talking about you were in roughly the business when, if my math is right, and I'm trying to do math quick. So you were like right around the 2012 crash, right? Were you in that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
not only that, and I don't mean to cut you off, but you were in the 2012 and COVID.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Which I know COVID was like, there was a lot of industries that did really well, and there was a separation season for them, but it was still very challenging, plus supply chains and all that. What was that like? Both of those huge, worldwide events. Yeah.
So when I entered in 2008, originally the company we started doing pretty much all new construction, some, replacements, but for the most part, we were doing work for new home builds.
And forgive me, I said 2012, I meant 2008. My apologies.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Sorry.
So we know, the housing crisis, the bubble. Yep. So we had to shift from, doing mostly new construction to switching to more add-on replacement. And so we were able to do that successfully. But we were a lot smaller company then. We had a handful of employees. It was much easier to navigate. We fast forward to COVID. That was hard. Yeah. I mean, it really was. I've never had to lay anybody off ever. And, in that moment, in something like that, you don't know what to do. There's no precedent for that. And, in good faith, thinking, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing for humanity, Earth, for lives. And I did lay everybody off. Just said, let's start with a month. And I only
because of the pandemic.
Because at the time, Governor Hogan said, only like necessary operations. So any like maintenance appointments and things like that, we canceled. Anything that wasn't an emergency type service. So I really only kept on my management team, and they actually went into the field, and I was working from my house, and my kids, are doing schooling, and I'm answering the phones. I'm doing all the office work pretty much myself.
Shit.
And then my managers and sales team, they're selling, installing. Yeah. I think I only had one manager at the time, but yeah, they're basically in the field running the service calls and doing the installs every day. So we went down from probably at the time, maybe 20 to 30 employees to 5 for a month. And then trying to navigate, when do I start bringing people back? But then they didn't want to come back because of, the unemployment bonuses that were being given at the time. So, and
I'm sure you were public enemy number one at your company. I mean,
it's frustrating because
know.
you make decisions in good faith, and you are, we're trying to, do what we can, but it wasn't feasible. Doing that for a month was hard enough. I mean, we're basically cutting 90% of our operations and still trying to survive.
While we're watching, and I'm not trying to give anybody hell, but my wife worked for the car industry, and they're like, oh, you're essential. And people are sitting here selling cars and flipping, you know, I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm again, I apologize to cut you off, but I want to relate to you on that because I was in the gym business. We were like maybe 6 months in or something when, you know, Nick had bought Pure Fitness. We were upstairs, we were over here. And then obviously we were deemed non-essential, and I responded horribly. Like like you said, in good faith. And I'm sharing this because I want our listeners to know that like this entrepreneurial journey that they try to sell you on Instagram and YouTube about how, you know, yeah, we grind, like this is the part that people don't realize, and how lonely and isolated you can feel sometimes. And in the decisions you make, you think are in good faith, you think are the right decisions, but really looking at it back now, like, man, maybe I should have done something this, maybe I should have did this differently. But I responded horribly. I sat around and waited. You know, I was training my clients in the park and virtually, and I was just kind of, you know, figuring it out when, you know, I hear like other guys I know and respect, and they just double down and triple down on certain things. And was just like, man, I thought that I was doing the right thing just by waiting around and listening to the news and things like that.
Well, because you, in that situation, like you're vilified if you stay open and, you know, proceed with normal operations because there's a global pandemic going. So how can you act normal and pretend everything is fine? But then if you try to do the right thing, but then it's not feasible to not operate for a year. I mean, we dealt with, not that COVID is ever gone away, it'll be around forever, but, you know, we were dealing with shutdowns for a year, 2 years. I mean, it feels like so long ago, even though it really wasn't. So It's not feasible. So at some point we had to return to normal operations. And at that point, yes, I mean, I had a lot of people upset and people were scared and concerned, and the decisions, the hard part, you know, being an entrepreneur, what maybe people don't talk about is the decisions that you and I make every day affect people's lives. Yeah. Ours, of course, as well. But that's probably, you know, the female perspective. I'm an empath anyway. So I'm empathizing with everyone and how they feel. And oh my gosh, you know, some of my employees, you know, their income is the only one for their family. They have stay-at-home wives, they have children. And that's a lot of pressure on me every day. You know, every decision that I make affects their livelihood, their kids, their family, and, you know, their ability to be able to support their family. So in that moment, you know, when all of this is going on, how do I make the right decision to, you know, try to do your part? Everybody was doing, you know, our part, and still support, you know, other businesses. I mean, we were actively trying to, you know, help do takeout and all of the things because, you know, my gym membership, I continue to pay it even though I wasn't using the facilities because you still want well, you still want the facilities to be there when all of this is passed. And, you know, then, you know, credits or whatever, you know, were issued later, and that's fine. You can, that was the way that to be able to get through it. But being in this position as an entrepreneur, we're looking at things differently than the general public. So for me, it was very difficult. How do I make the right decision, and what is the right decision? And would I have done things differently now? No, I'm not going to regret it. You know, it was hard. Our sales obviously weren't great that year. We were down. But I think by June, which is our busy season, we were, you know, had almost everyone back. I mean, I had some people quit. They just refused to come back to work. And at that point, you know, they have to make the decision that they feel is necessary, you know, for their family and for their, you know, individual situation. But we did at some point have to return to some sort of normalcy. Now we had to, the other side of it, protection, mask, hand sanitizers, you know, all of these things. We had customers that wouldn't allow us into their home, but we have to be in the home in order to work on the equipment. Yeah. So they're asking us to, you know, troubleshoot, you know, from the front yard. And
we're fucking hazmat shoes.
No, seriously.
I mean, imagine.
Yes. I mean, people
lost their mind during that time.
We would have people that would lock themselves in their bedrooms and, you know, just have be on the phone with the technician while the technician was moving through the home. We had Clorox wipes and, you know, any kind of, you know, disinfectant. So anything we touch, we'd have to wipe down. So it was a different time. And trying to find this stuff, as you know, at the time was difficult. I mean, we're buying hand sanitizer, I think from like Secrets or something. Yeah. Do you remember that? When I think they were like producing.
They were the only ones had it. Yeah.
So we were, you know, buying gallons and gallons and pallets of hand sanitizer and mask.
This is exactly why I was so excited to have you on, because, you know, although we haven't always, you know, aren't like we don't like best friends, but we've known each other, had a respect for you. As a matter of fact, I want to give you your flowers now. You were one of the first businesses, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do,
I do,
that supported me when, you know, with a sponsorship and, you know, just saw us and we had lunch and you sat down and you were like, yeah, I'm in, you know what I mean? I was like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And, you know, I'm forever grateful for that. You know what I mean? I never forget any of that stuff. You know what I mean? And that was another reason why I want to have you. I always like to pay it forward and give tribute to what I can. So thank you for that. But I'm excited. This is why I was so excited to have you on here, right? Because I knew that you were going to break down some of the stuff that no one talks about, right? Everyone talks about, like, you know, well, you got to just stay focused. You got to stay disciplined. You got, you know, they just throw these blanket statements, but no one gets into the X's and O's of what's really difficult and challenging. So my follow-up question is, you know, being in such a world where you had so much to prove and, you know, we're going to succeed regardless, right? I connect with that. Being in a world where, you know, from the outside looking in, it would say that, you know, you're destined to fail. You know, you couldn't do it and blah, 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 right? Which that was nothing for you. Having moments like COVID and having other moments like that, right? What do you do to, like, let that shit out? Like, where do you go for, you know what I mean? And if it's too personal, you don't have to share, but what do you do to, because I know for me, like, man, like I'm on a boat all by myself sometimes. And people don't realize that about entrepreneurship. And especially when you're running with, you know, a bigger team, bigger numbers, and you're trying to go bigger. It's so lonely. You know what I mean? Like, and I've got everybody in the world who loves me. You know, I've got a wonderful family. I've got all these amazing friends and amazing support system, but man, don't I feel alone sometimes? So, and I connect with the empathetic side of your people and the decisions we make for other people. What, you know, what do you do? You know what I mean? And I do want to make this more of a gender biased question because, you know, guys, we can go, you know, do certain things that I think that, you know, it's kind of looked at that women can't. Like, you know, we can go and, you know, let off some steam at your local water trough and, you know what I mean? Go streaking, right? Do some
Could
dumb
never.
shit. Correct.
Yeah.
What do you do to decompress, to let that out, to, like, when you're going through something like COVID, man?
So,
because, and again, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know I'm doing a lot. I apologize. But you talked about all the things you went through in that COVID time. You never mentioned about still taking care of your babies. You know what I mean? What the challenges that you were, the fears that you had. You know what I mean? That's something, again, as a great leader that you are, you never expressed any of that. What do you do? You know what I mean?
like you mentioned, absolutely. And I've said this and posted this before, that it's lonely at the top because I have an amazing team. Like, honest to God, they are phenomenal. I mean, my longest employee, I think he's been there, you know, going on 18 years, 19, 20 years, something, from 15 years. So I have a really, really, really good team, which helps. But nobody really understands your unique position as, you know, business owner and entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, everything is on you. That is something that I have struggled with, and over the last few years, up until a couple years ago, I didn't really have management. It was like me and everyone else. So everything was flowing through me. And this is actually the first year that I have 4 managers. So my life today is very different. Therapy. I have done a lot of therapy because it wasn't really, I wasn't like depressed with everything going on. I just don't know how to chill. Like, I just don't know how to relax. And, you know, 2025 was very different. 2025 was one of those years that sometimes on a weekly basis, I'm asking myself, can I do this? Am I built for this? Do I want to? And you have to be able to kind of drown out the noise and segment that. So with therapy, she really had to, my therapist, and I haven't been in a while because I things have gotten better. And I had to put people in place in management, and people are like, oh, well, that's not really an answer. It is, because you have to have some separation. And if your business can't survive or thrive without you being involved with every single phone call, every email. I mean, I personally would take hundreds of phone calls every single day. I know customers' names, addresses. Like, you tell me your name, I can tell you your address. And
that was stuff you were doing when you, like, started, right? That was like some of your roles when you were beginning. But I was still so involved up until, you know, a year or two ago. And now I have more management. So it has helped me be able to take a step back and breathe. But with therapy, you know, she's like, what are you doing for you? And I'm like, I work, you know, like that's what I do for me, because I enjoy it. I really do. I enjoy it. And then eventually, you know, a friend of mine was like, you go to a gym's a great place. And it really is, you know, a lot of you see a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs in the gym, and a lot of it is for, you know, health and, you know, different things. But a lot of it is, sometimes that's the only time that I have for myself that week. It's an hour
And I work with Denny here, the trainer, because I don't want to have to think. And sometimes I don't even count how many reps. Like I literally turn my brain cells off. Yeah. And I'm like, that's literally why I pay you, is because.
And she's so good.
Yeah. And she's
a Joe G, dude. She's so good. Yeah. I got to give her props, man. She's so good.
No, I love her. And it's really been transformative, not just like the physical and the health part, but just having an hour, a few times a week, I can turn off my phone, I can turn off my brain. And because a lot of times I'm the one planning, making decisions, everything. This is one of the only times in my life that someone else is doing it for me. And honestly, it is nice to come in, have that separation. And there was a period of time, last year, like 3 months, I wasn't able to get into the gym, and I just started going back here in December, and it's so nice. And, it really does make a difference. I like to travel. I need that time away. I think it's important that employees and business owners, you take that time away. You have to step back. That's something I do a couple of times a year, with or without my kids. I have to do that. Sometimes it's just like breathing exercises, and meditation music.
That's huge right now. Is breath work is very big right now.
Yeah.
And it's not what people think it is, you know what I mean? But it's really been able to help a lot of people who are like fast paced, brains always running.
I have
a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibilities. You know what I mean? It's been
I went to a conference in September, and Andrew Huberman was there, and him and Peter Aida. I'm probably saying that wrong, but so I've been following more of their some of their techniques and things that they're talking about, because it's a work in progress. I'm still not great at it. I'm learning to be better at it all the time, because especially with last year, like I said, I'm like questioning my existence some days because it's hard. It's really, really hard. But it's a combination of a lot of little things. I can't tell you there's any one thing that's like, bam, there's my reset. Sometimes just, last night I had, my daughter got me these shower steamers for Christmas, because taking long hot showers is my happy place. So she got me like these like eucalyptus shower steamers.
No one can find me in here.
Between the dogs and my kids, I don't know. I feel like they're worse now as teenagers than they were when they were 4 and 5 years old, because they're like knocking
girls, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They want to be. You
had a lot of good life in pre-teenage years with girls.
Yeah, and then the dogs are, everybody just wants, they just love me so much. They want to be there all the time. So I'm like, the shower is like my like 15 minutes just to like, and honestly, and it could be the shower, it could be reading a book, whatever it is for you, but it is important. But for me, shower, so, a little shower steamer, and like, the eucalyptus smell is always, one of my favorites. Yeah. And then just listening to some like meditation, relaxation music, and just breathing. And honestly, I did that last night for a little bit, and it helped so much. I slept great last night. And sometimes I don't sleep. So I'm trying to be more intentional and doing these different things on a weekly, monthly, daily basis to try to bring some Zen into my life, because I don't have a lot of it. I'm always, even when I think I'm maxed out, I'm like, I can still do that, and I will try.
Well, I think you said, there's gym after gym after gym dropped, because whether you do all of them or do some of them, you know what I mean? Like, I connected with a lot of them. Like, the traveling thing for me is big.
Yes.
And I'm about to take a cruise next week, right? And it's a family cruise, and it's for, my kids, my ex-wife, my current wife. Like, we're all just one big happy blended family. My grandkids. And I'm about to go on a run, you know what I mean? So, because I've got some things that I want to do, and I've locked in, you know what I mean? I actually quit drinking for, I just said I'm not going to drink for 1 year, and I love drinking. I'm really good at it. You know what I mean? And I'm not like a angry drunk.
Yeah, no, I'm not drinking right now either. Yeah. There's really no other reason. Like, I just don't need it. It doesn't add anything to me, to what I'm doing right now. It's not, I don't have anything against it. I don't have a problem with it, but same.
And I'm going to give myself a year. Cause I have to put a deadline on stuff for me. Cause if not, I won't have any results.
So,
but I'm about to go on a run, and one of the things that I'm a little nervous about is, like, I like to take 2 vacations a year. I like to take probably a minimum of 4 long weekends a year, because you have to breaking up the monotony, you know what I mean? Because working those long hours and all the pressure, I connect with that as well. But I think you just dropped a handful of gems that our listeners can vibe with, because again, these are the things that no one's talking about. You know what I mean? Everybody just thinks that you're just supposed to go, 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 go. And if we don't put the governor on ourselves, then we'll allow that to happen. We'll just keep people pleasing and keep giving. And
burnout is real. And I've definitely experienced it. And that's why, and honestly, in therapy and just talking about it, like there was nothing else going on other than I need to learn how to take time for myself. And she really helped kind of like put that in perspective. And she's like, well, why, why don't you? And I'm like, I don't know. And when she asked that question all the time, like, what do you do for yourself? And I did not have an answer because I wasn't doing anything for myself.
And that hurt the worst. That was probably the most painful answer.
I'm like, well, Teresa, that's a great question because I don't know.
Shout out to Teresa. Teresa's out here crushing it. But for us, man, it's funny because, like sometimes we just go to, like for me, when I went to therapy, I didn't have no real reason. I was like, I'm taking in a lot of people's shit. I need to unload this, unpack this somewhere. And then once we started uncovering Branden's Pandora box, I was like, holy shit, I didn't really like who I was and who I thought I was. You know what I mean? And it really it unpacked a lot of things and unraveled a lot of things. And I realized that, man, my ego was running the show, you know what I mean, in full blast. And when we say ego, people think that you're talking about, the macho side. No, just you have to be wrong for me to be right, or I know the way and no one else does.
It's a lot of pride.
It is, man. And, and it's such a deceptor. You don't know it's there. You don't realize it's there until, you get slapped in the face with it. I want to shift gears a little bit. You know what I mean? You also advocate for women in business and so forth, especially in the heating and air business. And you do a lot of, you're part of a couple of communities, you know what I mean? Talk about that. What are you a part of? What you're advocating in your vision for, other females in entrepreneur roles or business or whatever have you, let's hear some about that.
Yeah. So, I connect with a lot of women, and just honestly other HVAC business or in trades at a lot of the conferences that I go to. And there's a community, there's actually women in HVACR. Oh my goodness. There's, groups and magazines and stuff with that. There's actually, and I am not as active, or I'm not active, but it's like one of my, things I would like to do. There's a local women in construction group that meets a few times a year. And I think that's wonderful. And I need to, make that a priority to me. I follow them, I get their emails and check those out. I'm in the Greater Salisbury Committee, which, does an array of things in the community. They kind of identify needs or different things and kind of advocate that, put task force and groups together. I became a member of GSC a little over a year ago. And currently I'm serving on a task force, and I don't really want to talk about it publicly yet, but really exciting. Salisbury is, I think, is a special place. It has a lot of potential that's untapped, and kind of where are we going? And for me, when I visit other places and traveling, that's part of what why I like to travel, is to see what's going on in other areas, experiencing different cultures. Foods is my favorite, but of course, but kind of just seeing like how these other, how can they build this here and why don't we have it in Salisbury, and trying to bring back, some of that information and, insight and inspiration. So how can we involve Salisbury more? Yeah. Which I think the overall goal for my involvement with GSC is to try to figure out how to improve here for, all women, minorities, just everyday citizens, anybody really, that, to keep people here and make it a enjoyable, safe place. Everybody says, well, there's nothing to do here, but then when something opens, there's not a lot of support. So trying to tap into that. And to me, like, what's the identity? Who do we want to be and where do we want to go? I'm on the board for the Humane Society, which is, I think I've been on 3 or 4 years now, and our goal there is to hopefully build a new shelter. That is the goal. So we have the land now, kind of in partnership with the county. We were able to acquire that, and then now our goal is fundraising and putting plans together. So kind of keep an eye on that. It's desperately needed, and from an outside perspective, before I was on the board for the Humane Society, I honestly did not know how much they did, what services they really offer for the community, and how, it's crazy how much they're doing there, and really support them in any way possible. So on being on the board there, I would love to be able to, continue to be a part and hopefully see this new building come to fruition because it's desperately needed. I mean, the needs in our area have grown exponentially, and everyone there they're inundated with animals, and everybody loves animals, but taking care of them and making sure they have the proper care is a different story.
And you're talking about the one that's out off Airport Road?
Yeah. The Wicomico Humane Society.
I had to put my cat down last year, which was awful. And that was like the first time I've ever been there. And I was just like, this place is a little overcrowded.
Yes. I mean, they're at capacity all the time. Yes. So they do with the space and the facility.
Great, yeah, they were awesome.
The space and the facility that's there. They do fantastic, but a new facility is, I think, overdue, and really excited to be a part of that. And then really, it's not just women. I do love, helping other women and business owners, but I talk to all types of business owners, small business owners, sharing information. And that's something I'm passionate about women, but I'm passionate about all business owners. And sometimes even my competitors will reach out to me and, ask me questions. And to be honest, it doesn't bother me. I think collaboration is what happens at the top, and, competition is, if you're so worried. I mean, I think that if we're lifting everyone, we're lifting our industry. And for me, coming into this space, and maybe this is the woman part, coming into this space, plumbers, electricians, HVAC workers, technicians, the public stigma, perception is, uneducated, sloppy, dirty, whatever the case is. So part of my brand has always been to, hopefully lift our industry, because these technicians, men, women in the field, from all plumbing, electrical, HVAC, that's just kind of the area that I come from. They are very smart people. For HVAC, we have to understand relative humidity and how it affects, the space and overall building. And they also have to have an understanding of electric and plumbing. So they're very, very intelligent. It's not, maybe it's coming from a stigma from, years ago, or if you didn't go to college, then you wouldn't be successful. But, making sure my guys are in uniforms and having nice looking vans and how we present ourselves. And part of our brand is, making sure that we are respected as an industry. And that's why, some people say, why do you dress the way that you do? I could wear t-shirts and jeans, but being a woman, I want to make sure that people take me seriously. And I do feel how you dress and present yourself is oftentimes how people will perceive you, unfortunately. And being a woman in this industry, I felt like I had to. It's not necessary, but same thing for my team. If someone shows up in ripped jeans and a ripped shirt with, paint or whatever all over it, the public perception, not that it should be that way, but that's just the way that it is. Sure. So trying to uplift our industry as a whole, and, making sure that we are respected and understand the importance of the men and women that do this work every single day.
I love that. Do you think that the, maybe like having the woman in business mindset was like first base, and then now you're on to like, sounds like you're almost on the, on the stretch home, but do you think that started and that was like the first, door that you saw that it was like a major, hey, we're going to overcome this. And now that was probably easier than you thought it would be, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because what you're capable of, and what you're, and then we also learned like, maybe I kind of overthought it sometimes, or maybe I didn't realize it was as bad. But do you think that was like maybe like first base, and then now you're on to the next base, like, hey, now we're going to just lift the whole industry up. We're going to lift everybody up.
Yeah, I think honestly, I just never really let the woman in business issue bother me. I knew that it was there. Sometimes like people say stuff, but like I said, sometimes I didn't even know stuff until like years later. Then people would admit, what they thought about you, and they would say, humbly, like, I'm coming to you to say like, you're doing amazing, and I can learn a lot from you now, but 10 years ago I thought you were a joke. Yeah. So sometimes I didn't, like I said, being naive, I think gave me a head start, because I just didn't really pay attention to what other people were saying. I knew that in a lot of cases it existed, and people would say so. I mean,
so that wasn't even a factor for you. You were just like, look, I gotta get to
just
work.
Whatever. Yeah. I loved it. Sometimes, I would go to the distributors, and so I would literally be the only woman in there. I'm like, well, at least the line for the women's bathroom is short. Like, that's how I would look at it. And I took a picture one time, because there was a bunch of men in line for the men's restroom at this distributor. I was the only female, so I was like, well, and that never happens.
I can't remember where. I'm sorry again to cut you. I can't remember where it was. But it was I was somewhere, and you had showed up. You know what I mean, and you were dressed to the T. You know what I mean, and it was somewhere where you needed to be. You know what I mean. It might even been at the gym. I don't know where it was, but I think it was here. I think it was when Nick was still just getting this thing together, and there was 100 problems going on. And I mean, you commanded a respect. It wasn't even like that you were seeking it. It was like, hey, we're about business. I'm here to get this shit done. We need to get it done right.
Right.
And your presence alone, just like, no one thought, at least in my eyes, no one thought about male, female, whatever. Like, this business person's out here ready to get shit done. Get out of her way. You know what I mean? Like, she's got to get it done, and she's got a deadline.
Yeah.
And I know if you were working with Nick, you know what I mean. I know like he needed it done 2 days ago. And it's all wrong. You know what I mean? Because he's so difficult.
There's a lot of changes, but yeah, I mean.
But I always respected that about you. You know what I mean? And amongst other things,
Thank you.
You know what I mean. That you walk through, you got it done. What this podcast is flying by. We're coming to the end. What do you see? I'm gonna have a couple questions for you to finish this up. What is it for you, and what do you see with your business? Like, do you want to follow your? Would it be ideal to follow what your parents did and eventually have this an opportunity provided for your kids? Is this something that you're looking to expand nationwide? Do you want to scale? What does that look like for you? And it could be just business. It could be personal. You know what I mean? It could be a little bit of both. But what does that look like for you? So
maybe a downside of, I used to joke for a long time that the business was my husband, because I'm not married. So I was a relationship with here because this really took precedent over a lot of things in my life. And I don't regret that at all. But on the flip side, my kids have seen me, taking phone calls 24/7, weekends, vacations, up until 4 years ago. Every vacation I took, I was basically just working from, a remote location. Yeah. The first time I took a 10-day vacation, it was 10 days. I think I was doing the Pacific Coast Highway road trip with my kids. And before I left, I was in my now office manager's office, and she's been with me 12 years. And I started crying because I was like, I can't go. Like, I can't do it. I can't go.
Scary.
So my kids have seen the part that most people don't. And they have both pretty much explicitly said that they don't want any parts of this life. And sometimes I feel like that's a failure on my part, that I should have balanced it better, differently. But I don't really know that I could have. I've always showed up to everything, every gymnastics meet, all the horse shows. We've been all over the place and doing all of it. And, I'm like a ping pong ball, spent a lot of years until my oldest, Delaney, got her license as a ping pong ball, but also, simultaneously working on, while I'm doing all of these things. So Delaney actually has a passion for psychology, specifically sports psychology. She really wants to work with athletes with mental blocks and optimizing performance, with things that, athletes have challenges with. So that is her goal. And I love that for her. I think that fits and suits her personality and her goals and what she's passionate about.
That's awesome.
And what I'm kind of going on passion earlier, when you mentioned, like when we went to lunch at Rise Up or met for coffee all those years ago, you had passion. And that is, I think, one of the most important things that you need and should have when getting started. And, that's why I believed in you then. And, now you can kind of look back at your journey where you are now, and you still have passion. And I have passion for what I do every day. And Delaney has passion for that. So that's how I know that she'll be successful. And that she is built very differently than me. I'm not a very emotional person. She's, a very emotional person, and kind of the ways, not that she couldn't do it, but I want her to be happy and pursue her passion. And then my youngest is, her passion is riding horses and equestrian. She wants to train and do something in that field. Right now, she just turned 14, so it could change, but she's a little bit more like me, personality wise, and, stubborn, hard headed, all of the things. But, so we'll see if that is something that she wants to pursue. I'm open to it, but right now she definitely wants no parts of it. She wants to ride in college, for a team, and then she wants to have a farm and like a training program. So, and I hope that for her, if that's what her passion is, I think.
Just remember that, you know what I mean? Our kids see the greatest examples of us and also see what they don't want to be. And that's the gift that we give them. And we think that that's always a bad thing. But you know what? Business ownership and entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. The one thing that you probably see in your kids, they're going to have is work ethic. You know what I mean? And they're going to have a sense of self, but our kids see what they don't want, and some of them don't want no business. Some of them just want to, be a great number two or just fall,
do whatever.
And that's awesome. So, that's I think that's a great thing that you're able to see. But back to, I'm going to push you on you. I'm not going to let you off. What about you though?
Yes, I know.
What do you want to do?
What do I want to do
with this business or with your life or what all?
I have a goal that I want to achieve, and I'm only 50% there. So I will be married to this thing for a little while longer. And after that, I don't know. I really don't. I always decided when I got to that point, at that point, I'm probably looking more of like a regional I'm already in Maryland and Delaware, but, and we could go to Virginia at any time. We're so busy with, saturating the market that we're in. I don't need to tap into that yet. So I know that there's so much potential to go crazy. I talk to, have some mentors and people that are with, 50 million a year, 75 million, $100 million a year. And to me, that's crazy, seems, I know it's not unobtainable, but I'm not anywhere close to those numbers. So right now, I want to get to the number and put things in place for where I want to get to, and then kind of revisit it and see, where things will go from there. I don't know. I feel like I'm too young to sell. I would just want to do it again, and then they would make me sign a non-compete for a few years. So right. I would just want to do it. I would just want to do it again because I really do enjoy it. I love building a brand. That's honestly what I'm good at. I'm good at, the business part, but I'm good at building a brand, and that's what I enjoy. I enjoy connecting with people and connecting the brand with people. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I always say the sky's the limit and nothing's off the table. I've had a lot of offers for, partnerships, investments, buyouts as well. I'm not so much interested in that, but at some point in your journey, I think as an entrepreneur, you have to know when it's time to bring in strategic partners. Yeah. I'm not there yet. But I know I can see it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're a lot better at a lot more things than building a brand and running a business, just by our interactions.
That's what I enjoy.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the fun part for me. I mean, the day to day, I'm a problem solver, and that's what I enjoy. If there's a problem, there's always a solution. You just have to be committed to finding it.
Absolutely.
And I do enjoy that part. There's some other operational day-to-day things that I used to really enjoy, but now I think I got burnout. But the problem solving, brand building, things like that. And then how to push it to the next level, to the next step. That's what is enjoyable. But I'm not there yet, but I do think it's on the horizon where I would have to, start looking into bringing in strategic partners to, you have to know what your strengths are, which we talked about. And you also have to know what you're not good at. And when, not having someone do that part of it can be detrimental to your growth. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So
absolutely.
You're always moving forward.
I love it. This has been a fire episode. Last question, Rin, and we'll get going. What advice would you have to people out there, trying to start a business, trying to get entrepreneurship, whether it be male, female, whatever you want to cater to, what would you tell them?
1, go for it. 2, and this is probably the most important part, the evolution and the process that you will go through personally and professionally will test your limits beyond your wildest imagination. But you have to be committed to change. And change can be scary, especially if you are a very regimented person. And, when things feel out of your control is not where you succeed, but you have to get comfortable in that space in order to be able to continue to push and move forward. The person I am now is not the person I was a year ago, and certainly not the person I was 5 or 10 years ago, because you have to be committed to personal and professional growth and leaning on resources outside. That's where your ego has to get out of the way, and you have to be able to listen and understand that there's people that have built something already, and sometimes it's a roadmap, or maybe it's just a guide for you to take into consideration. But don't be scared of change. Commit to evolution, commit to the best version of yourself, but you'll never be the best version of yourself, because you'll always be moving forward, but you have to be committed to it and be comfortable and embracing it. And that's, for me, that has been the biggest, I would say, factor in being able to be where I am now. And I was talking to someone yesterday, and I was like, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that, I'm trying this, I'm trying that, and I've tried these different things. And they said, you'll be successful because you keep trying things. And that's the key. Don't give up. Because once you stop trying to find the answer, that's when you fail.
Absolutely. Well, if that wasn't a Instagram reel right there, I don't know what was. I just love you, man. I appreciate, your perspective. I really appreciate you, seeing the passion in me, sometimes I'm too passionate. But I do appreciate that, because that I do think that carries you so much, especially when we're in the seats that we are. But I think you're doing a great thing for a lot of people, probably more people than you don't realize, that you're affecting. And, I've always looked at you and respected you as a leader. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much.
I didn't, male, female, business owner, daughter, it didn't fucking matter to me. I saw a leader, and I saw somebody that had an energy that was magnetic and that was commanding, that, hey, we're going to do some shit, and we're going to make sure that people know it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you got a following for that. So I appreciate you for all you've done for the area, what you've done for me, and just I'm excited and grateful that you came on the show. And
thank you. I
just
appreciate
looking forward to see what you're going to do in the future. Where can we get up to you, or where can we find you? So if anybody wanted to get some business advice, they want to get some heating and air services or whatever, here's your plugs time. So where do they go?
Okay. Well, personally, if you want to connect on like a entrepreneur business level, on Instagram and Facebook, Lacey Coleman, and then business, same Coastal Comfort Heating and Air Conditioning.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, guys, that'll wrap us up for another episode of Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. I know you got value out of this one, so I know this one's going to be shared a lot. But again, we ask that you please subscribe to all platforms, all channels, and send this to somebody who could benefit from this, because I know I sure did, and I know a lot of people will. Other than that, we'll see you next time, guys. What are you doing today to become a champion?